What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Brody, joined by Two Dong Dylan
Hey.
and the Kincaid of these Dream Warriors, Charlie Hickman.
Aw, thank you. I am honored.
He's cool.
Very cool.
He's cool and
Oh, he's
strong.
cool. He was my favorite.
All right. While you're here, we'd love to interact with you. So you can go ahead and send us an email at talktalkpunch@gmail.com. Ask us a question, and maybe your question will go up on one of our mailbags. Or you can comment down below. Just please remember to be nice about it. And then whether you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening in on the audio version of the podcast, make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the star rating, hit all those things that help us with those algorithms. Those things actually help. Those things. Looking for interaction, thumbs up. So if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. And then once you do that, you can also come back here and subscribe, or else Dylan's going to come to your house. He's going to put lavender sachets all your vents. And no one likes the smell of lavender. Doggone it. It's going to smell your whole house like lavender. You don't want that.
It'll be hypoallergenic though, so nobody's going to be. They'll just be mildly irritated, but no rashes will form.
We're gonna have to
You'll
unpack
be
Brody's
fine.
irrational hatred of lavender later at another time.
All right. And then, so make sure you subscribe so that doesn't happen. We don't want your house.
Right.
And then you can easily come back here every Wednesday to hang out with us and see what we're talking about. Kind of like this week's topic, kind of special one. This one, we are ranking. Are these, Dylan, would you say these are the top 10 or just 10?
I'm going to say 10.
We're going to rank 10 of the deaths from A Nightmare on Elm Street. These are films that
Freddy Krueger kills.
That both Dylan and Charlie really like. I think I've seen these movies. But they love them. So we're gonna have some fun. Dylan's gonna explain them because we can't show them because there's copyright.
Right.
Those will get taken down super fast. But
very quickly.
Dylan, in all of his memory goodness of all of these.
Don't forget about the descriptive goodness.
Well, I thought you were gonna act it out. Are we not doing that anymore?
Oh my gosh, that's an even better idea. Stop recording, Dylan. You got to act all these out. We're starting over.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely.
All right, Dylan, you want to give us some background on this?
Absolutely. Well, basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be judging these 10 kills. I didn't want to put any of the worst or the best or any of those kinds of things. I put a good fair amount of kills and a fair number of them. And I wanted to do at least one from each of what you could call the main timeline. So we're not doing the what is it? Not the final nightmare, the new nightmare. Yeah, we're not doing any from New Nightmare. We're not doing any from the reboot or anything along those lines. We're doing from the main timeline for Freddy Krueger, starting from the first one all the way through Freddy versus Jason. These kills are classic. Freddy's not known for his high body count because basically, when you go into a dream, you're basically killing one person. But he lacks when it comes to quantity. He really makes up for in quality. So we're going to be, absolutely. The creativity behind them are fantastic. I've always loved the idea of dreams and all that kind of thing. And they really explored a lot of that stuff.
I was going to say creative murder, but yeah, go on.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, let's go over to. So I'm going to go ahead and list them out. Now, for the eagle-eyed folks who are looking at Charlie, saying, wait a second. Something. Yes, there's a different mark down in the corner. Charlie, just point like this. Other way. Down, lower. See that guy? Yeah, I know. He doesn't match this mark. Dylan gave me a list. Sue me. There's multiple marks that have been killed in Nightmare on Elm Street. And
franchise.
I made the
franchise.
So, yes. If you loved that Mark's death, I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about this Mark's death. So, here is what we're talking about. We're going through Tina from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Glenn from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Carrie from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2,
Freddy's
Philip,
Revenge.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3,
Dream
Aaron,
Warriors.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3,
Yeah.
Debbie from, I'm just going to say part 4,
Okay. Good. Good.
Kincaid from part 4, Greta from part 5, Carlos from Freddy's Dead, and Mark, that Mark, from Freddy versus Jason.
Nice.
All
Well
right.
done, bro. Excellent.
So what we're going to do, we're going to shuffle these all up. We're going to put them in a pile. They're going to come out one at a time. And as they come out,
We're gonna rank them.
yes. Dylan,
Excellent.
buy me like 5 seconds.
Okay. Basically, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at these and we're going to be thinking about stuff like creativity, scariness, coolness, stuff along those lines. Some of these are unbelievably memorable. And I mean, all of them I can talk about from memory. Some of them, I mean, I'm sure all of them you can talk about from memory too, right, Charlie?
Mm-hmm.
All of these seem familiar. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to remember, we're going to describe them, and we're going to, and Broads watched them all as well. And so
Yeah.
we're going to basically see which one goes where.
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting, too. We can talk a little bit about, how much certain aspects of the, whether it's the acting in the scene, the comedy, the violence, the creativity, the gore, whatever it may be that draws each of us to rank some of these scenes higher or lower than others. It'd be kind of interesting to hear you guys' methodologies, like what drives you towards that number one. I've got a couple that I know I want up at the top.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I got a couple that I know I wanted. I feel I got a couple like that I want really low. So it's gonna be interesting. I might have some lively debate.
I made sure to pick ones that were good and maybe not so good, just to give us a little bit of a variety.
Here you go. So yeah, so these are all shuffled up. They weren't shuffled up. So I had to shuffle them up, and then they're going to come out one at a time. We're going to place them. Just because they get placed doesn't mean they're stuck there. They can still get moved around as more people up, and we say, that one is higher. I don't want to put that one low. So that. So
Nice.
to start out, we've got Philip.
Philip from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, 1987. He made puppets, and so Freddy turned him into a puppet, slashed his arms, slashed his ankles, and tore his tendons out, and forcing him to walk down the hall, upstairs apparently, into another whole building, and forced him to fall to his death, making it look like suicide. This was a really cool one, I've got to say. The makeup and the special effects are excellent. And when you see him walking around in real life as if he's being marionetted without any marionettes, it is very creepy. This is in the top 3 for me.
Agreed. Yeah, this one was like this was the first movie that I saw when I was a kid. I saw way too young. Shout out to our earlier episodes of movies we watched when we were way too young.
Yeah.
This is my introduction to the Nightmare franchise, but man, that death was like super creepy. And at the time, the effects, I mean, you can watch it now on YouTube. I don't know how well it's held up, but
Come on,
but at
it's
the time,
good.
it was like, oh wow, that's crazy, man.
It is creepy and it's gory. I mean, you've got this guy, you've got like his veins or something pulling him at these arms. And it's
I'm saying 2.
saying 2.
I'm saying 2. I'm throwing it out.
I mean, he just died from falling out the.
So where would you put it?
Of all of these, yeah, it's probably pretty high. I could go with like 2 or 3.
Let's put it 3 for now, and that
3?
gives us some wiggle room to debate.
Okay.
Right. Next up, we have
Greta.
Greta.
Oh,
Played by
Part
Erica
5.
Anderson. Part 5 Dream Child, 1989. Not a very good movie, but easily the best death in the movie, where she is at a dinner party her mom is throwing. She gets basically trapped in her chair, and Freddy starts force feeding her until her mouth looks like she's the lady in the radiator from Eraserhead. Huge. And we also get to find out that he's feeding her herself.
Yeah.
And to top it way all off, she gets to beg Alice for help after Alice's refrigerator time warps into like decay, and there she is. It is a and then when you see it from the
Wait.
people's perspective, but wait, there's more. When you see it from the people's perspective, like people who are already awake, she's coughing like she's choking, which is really horrific. You fall asleep, and then you also have food in your mouth, and you choke, and people are like, "What the hey?" And then she just drops dead. Yikes! Not a good movie. Excellent death.
This is one of the more uncomfortable ones in the list. This is hard to watch. Oof.
Where are you?
I don't know if that makes it good or bad, but
I know. I was waiting for a follow up there.
I don't know. I know I said I was curious how you guys would push your rankings. I'm still not even sure how to do it for myself. I don't know.
It's
It's got to be top 5, right?
Yeah, from this list, I think it was up there. You know, the makeup and stuff is good. I don't know if it quite holds up.
If it's top 5, let's go 5.
It's pretty obvious that it's like fake, because even like she just has like the hole, like her mouth hole, that's just like
Yeah,
stays
that's true.
there and doesn't move at all. But yeah, the whole scene is very uncomfortable. It is pretty gruesome, the whole thing. I think it could start
Yeah, and Freddy's and she, they started doing this thing in the Nightmare on Elm Streets where they were like, like the first one, he's just kind of killing people, and then the second one, we'll talk about the second one. Not one. But they start slowly just bringing in like she has an eating disorder, and so of course we'll kill her through stuffing food. And, it's just like they start really like making the deaths like more emotionally sad for the people who are being murdered, like more of the psychological torture along with their deaths. Real sad.
Yeah.
You also get Freddy dressed as a chef.
Yeah.
That's right. Chef Fredo makes a good spaghetti-o, that guy. Let's put it 5 for now. 5 for now.
Yeah, let's start at 5. I can always move.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Carrie from Part 2.
Freddy's Revenge, 1985, played by Cindy Walsh.
This is an important one to talk about because this was the weirdest. Okay, this movie was weird, right? And it broke, I think, a lot of the rules that we've come to understand Freddy allegedly follows. She dies. It wasn't her dream.
It's a good point. Charlie makes a good point, and it's technically an error on my part because, technically speaking, Jesse's having the dream. From what we can tell, at least. I guess it also could be his girlfriend, or maybe it could be Carrie's dream. We're not actually sure.
Or it could be real life. Yeah, who knows?
It could be real life. And so, I mean, if we are going off of it's Jesse's dream, which I always kind of assumed it was, especially because they at the end they drive off into that desert again, the Ohio desert. Basically, what happens is they're on a school bus. And it's great because they're talking, and Jesse gets scared, thinking things are, things are still bad. Maybe this is a nightmare. Because he has a car. Why is he on the bus? And so,
wait.
So I mean, like, it makes sense to be like, wait, what's happening? Don't I drive?
Yeah. If I ever wake up on a school bus,
I'll be like, this is bad. What happened?
Wait a minute.
And so they say, don't freak out. Everything's fine. And Carrie played like it. Even's like, hey, it's all over. And as soon as she does, boom, right out of her chest pops Freddy's glove, and they drive off into the desert. Everybody, and supposedly she gets killed. So we don't know whose dream it is exactly. Maybe it's Jesse's, which means how could she get killed? But like Charlie said, they did a lot with the rules on this one. But it's still the best kill in the movie. It's the best one.
It is for sure.
Nice.
This one's very fast though. It's really
this
just a hand
low.
Through the chest.
Like I said, this one wouldn't be low. I wanted to do, like I said, one from every movie, and this was by far the best from that movie. No Grady or Coach Snyder on this one, because this one was just the best. So, I mean, I'm thinking
Was,
Maybe a
who was
9.
the party goer who was like, "Hey, just chill out, man. It's
Oh
all
yeah,
good."
yeah, that guy. We just want to help you. Help yourself.
Yeah, maybe
uh,
I would think like 8 or 9.
okay, that sounds
Okay,
good.
8 or 9. Which one?
Yep.
start with 9.
Start with 9. Starting low.
Whenever he asks you a question like that, Dylan, our job is just to agree with him.
Ah.
You just agree with me when I ask you a question.
Yep.
And I agree. I love it because the question isn't a yes or no answer or,
Yeah.
or a question.
No,
It's
no.
like just you're like 8 or 9. We're like, yes, you're right.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Correct.
that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
All right. Next up, we have Kincaid from A Nightmare on Elm
Oh man.
Part 4.
Dream Master from 1988.
This one pisses
This
me off.
this really sucks because Kincaid was a fantastic character, by the way, played by Ken Sagos. He is so good at playing Kincaid. He was fantastic. He survives the Dream Warriors, and in the very beginning, he doesn't get anything to do. He gets killed off. In fact, he's the first kill in the movie,
Yeah.
and he goes to sleep. He wakes up in the trunk of a car that's in the place where they had basically buried Freddy's bones, a junkyard of all of cars. And he gets out, and his dog Jason um, takes a pee, and he pees fire, and Freddy comes back to life. And it makes sense. There's a science that works. There is some sort of logic. It makes sense. It makes
It
sense.
is.
Freddy comes back. He regenerates and he gets out. Kincaid throws a car on him, and we also notice
Pushes
that
a car on him.
he pushes a car. Sorry, pushes, throws, and looks up, yelling for Kristen in what looks like a planet-sized junk for cars, whatever it is.
It's like a maze.
And yeah, it was that too. And then after this, we see Freddy grab him and stab him. He's like, tell him Freddy sent you. Not the most dynamic of kills, and I was not pleased with who they were killing. I mean, this would be one of the lower 5 for me, like an 8.
Yeah.
I think go for it, Charlie.
No, go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say, in terms of just like, yes, it's not the goriest or anything like that, but kind of on the creepy level.
That's true.
It was because he's running around and the cars start turning
Yeah.
on their lights,
Oh,
and these
he
are all
looks around, yeah.
dead cars, and they're turning on the lights, and the
Mhm.
horns are going off, and the cars start moving and kind of start moving in on him, where he's just in this
Oh,
tiny
yeah,
little
that's true.
space. So it did kind of have that claustrophobic feel to it. That kind of, we're like, oh man,
True. Are you thinking
Freddy's
6?
gonna get him. 6, sure. Charlie,
Are you thinking
my
6?
This is like my number 10.
is it?
Really?
I enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. The thing that they do that I absolutely hate and it pisses me off is they have survivors killed in like the subsequent movies, and it takes away any of the emotional joy you feel from the previous films. It just deflates it. Nancy survives 1, great, we'll kill her in 3. These people survive 3, great, we'll kill them in 4. Oh, you survive 4, great, we'll kill you in 5. It takes away any of like the joy if you're watching the movie and you're like, oh, and you're connecting with the characters and you're rooting for them. What's the point? What's the point in rooting for them? They're just gonna die. They're dead anyway. Oh, you lived? Congratulations. You'll just die in the next one.
It's true. In part 4, Alice gets, and Dan both survive. Part 5, one of the first people killed off is Dan.
Dead immediately. And
Well, let's.
but the death itself is fine. So I'm not, for me personally, and it's just personal feelings. I watched 3. It was the first Nightmare on Elm Street I saw. I loved it. I went back and watched 1, loved it. Watched 2, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And then I watched 4, and I was angry, just angry. I didn't understand Nancy's death at the time because I didn't see 1 before I saw 3. So I saw 3, and I was like, I don't know why everyone's so emotional about this. She's just a random person.
You saw 1, you're like,
And I saw 1. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I get it. That's
why?
stupid. So, but you guys can put it at 6 or 7. I'm not gonna be mad.
Well,
I had to get my little vent on. I had to get a little vent on.
I mean, we if we looked at the death itself, like, he did just get stabbed.
Yeah.
At least Carrie, like, Freddy's whole hand came through her chest. So if we wanted to either put Kincaid at 10 or move Carrie up to 8 and put Kincaid at 9, I'd be fine with that.
Let's try that. Let's put Carrie at 8, and we'll put Kincaid at 9 for the moment. For the
Ah,
moment,
you guys are sweet. That's my guy right
Because
there.
I mean, he just kind of
it's
got
true.
stabbed.
Okay,
They
that's
couldn't
true.
even give him like a whole other half movie. They had to kill him right away too.
Somebody had to
very
tell
true.
everybody that Freddy's back.
That's
But he couldn't because he was dead. He couldn't tell anybody.
yeah.
No,
He was like,
he yelled it. Yelled it.
to his dog Jason being fired somewhere in the corner.
All right. Next
Okay.
up, we have Carlos from Freddy's Dead.
Oof.
1991. This is as far as I'm concerned, the worst movie on the list. Played
Yeah.
by Ricky Dean Logan. He played a hearing impaired individual who had a hearing aid. He Freddy decided to it was first like with the grandmother, right, bro?
Yeah.
First, he
To
or not
clean his
grandmother,
ears.
his mom, yeah,
Which is what it
with a
sounded like what made him
bu-
deaf.
yeah, with a huge Q-tip, and she jammed it just about right through him. How that didn't kill him and end everything, I don't know. That would have killed anybody, and somehow he was just okay. Usually in dreams, the whole thing is if it happens in a dreams, then that happens in real life, you die. But after this, then he gets his hearing aid back, and Freddy starts messing with him and making sounds, throwing pins until his
Taking
head
the
explodes.
claws.
But the
Breaking
the hearing aid was it was almost like a creature because it had
Yeah, it
like
clamped on. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't like ear stuff.
clamped on. Now,
This
Star
one-
Trek, little worms. Ooh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this one for me, if this had been shorter, if they had done the Q-tip thing and somehow killed him from there, I think this would have been a lot higher. But
yeah.
man, this just went on and on. It was a Q-tip thing. And then he fell downstairs. And then he got his ear cut off. And
Yep.
then he got his hearing aid and put it on, and then it clamped on his head. And then Freddy's dropping pins that made his head. I was like, okay, like just kill the guy already.
What's gonna kill this kid? Like, are you kidding?
You know,
Again,
and it starts out brutal. The Q-tip thing is brutal. Just
Brutal.
it could have been that, and this would have been high up there.
higher. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Are we
There's-
thinking 10 just
And there's no
because of the
suspense in
ridiculous?
it. It's not like you're thinking, oh, they're probably gonna spare him. Like, he's definitely gonna make it. You know, it's just drawn out.
He's
That's
gonna make it.
He's
gonna be all right.
Yeah,
I put this on the definitely bottom 5. I'm towards the back end is good for me.
We could drop
Are
him
we-
at 10.
I would be fine with 10. The worst movie, worst kill.
Sounds good to me.
All right,
Glenn.
up, got Glenn. Nightmare.
Played by
Old
Johnny
Johnny
Depp. Hmm. Now he played he was his character was supposed to be some big blonde jock, and somehow Wes Craven showed Johnny Depp's headshot to like his daughter or something. She's like, "Oh, he's so dreamy." And he's like this like small little like pale dark haired kid, really. And I guess that's all it took. And so he took that role and made it his own, and it was like he was like a good kid. And he was lying in bed. He was told to stay awake, but this is not the first time he's decided to fall asleep when Nancy asked him not to fall asleep. And he's on his bed listening to music. I think he might be reading, and he's also watching TV. His mother even
Watching
asked, "Hey,"
TV.
he's watching TV. He wasn't reading, but he was listening to music too.
Yeah.
Because the mom is even like, "Oh, why are you listening to music?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm watching the TV." She's like, "It was like some talent show or something," and he's like, "How are you going to know what they're going to say?" And he's like, "I don't care." And
It's great because he had the full TV, like the old
on
like
his
8, 9
legs.
inch screen TVs.
Oh.
Some people may not remember the TVs that 9 inch. They were like that. And the whole thing is just sitting on his lap. It's
Yeah,
like, oh
the
gosh,
whole thing.
that looks so uncomfortable.
That looks terrible. Terrible.
Hey, that was the precursor to like tablets, man. That's
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
That's how we ended up with iPads.
Well, basically, what happens next, we see Freddy's arm reach out of the bed and pull him down into it while he's screaming for his mom. Not being sarcastic, he actually was doing that. And he pulls in the TV, he pulls in the record player, he pulls in everything. And after this, a huge geyser of liquefied Johnny Depp. I'm assuming because I mean, and no human being could have blood like this. As much blood. It was I don't know what it was, but they blasted him way out and out. And when you think they're done, more is out. They
So
actually they were going to do another, like at the very end, his corpse was going to come up and like just fall on the bed before they realized how could there possibly be a corpse after all of this ridiculous amounts of blood? There wouldn't be anything left. Really, really gross and creepy and kind of preposterous at the same time. Does not in any way, I mean, hey, Johnny Depp sold it when he was screaming. I bought it. I don't know about the blood. It seemed way excessive, and oddly enough, in real life, it was the same thing. They were like, "Wow, we put buckets down," and I'm like, "Are you guys kidding me? How is that possible?"
Buckets and buckets. I kind of like this death, so maybe I'll be an outlier here. I just like one in general because I think they show a lot less, and I thought that was like
That's
more to the
true.
imagination, and like it was gruesome, but like it was
Like, we don't know what happened. What we don't know what he did.
I don't know what he did to him down there, but whatever it was, like that was horrible. Uh, so it's just, I mean, different kind of death certainly than like Freddy putting on a
Mhm.
chef's hat and being like, "Hey, bonjour, it's me, Freddy Krueger. I'll be your murderer today." Um, the real twist, of course, in the chef one was when like there was a little rat that was kind of like
Of course, yeah.
oh, jeez.
a little crossover. Uh, so I put this one in my top five, but I would understand if you guys just felt like it's too plain Jane and you wanted it in bottom five.
Where would you
I
put it?
wouldn't
Where
argue too
would you put it?
hard. I put maybe four.
I th- so for me, this is like one of my favorites. This is either my
Okay.
one or
Oh, that's fine. Me too.
Really?
yeah.
Explain.
I think that this one is so neat, and because it's pretty fast, right? He grabs Glenn like pretty quickly, but then just the amount of blood that comes shooting out of this bed, and like I remember I watched the movies that made us the Netflix thing on, like they talked about having to have this room, that like rotated so that they could drop blood, and how they talked about how much so much blood. And it's remarkable how much blood they they drop, or
Not only did they do that, they used the same construct configuration that they did for the first death in the film, where the room turned completely upside down and they dumped the blood down. But the funny thing is, because of the weight distribution, it rocked a bit, and so it got onto equipment and electrified the lights. And it also, when you watch it, it looks like it's rippling and moving across the ceiling. It is because it was moving. It was like moving, so it kind of got onto a tilt a little bit. I had heard, I don't know who it was, but one of the camera operators I had heard was it got a bit of jolt from the electrified water or the blood or something along those lines. They put a lot of time and thought into it. It was just a hair too much blood for my taste. I'll say if you guys want it one or two, I'll say two for me.
Charlie, you originally said four. Would you
That's
guys
just
rather
this is
have
an
it at
open
four?
slot. No, I'm good with it up in the top. I thought I was going to be kind of on an island with this one. So, um,
Well, and I think so for me, like there's the really gory stuff, and I guess there's like the uncomfortable stuff, like Carlos in the ear and stuff like that. Like, and maybe I just like that stuff as but to watch this, and so to watch that happen and then see the amount of blood, I'm just like that's one of those like like whoa, look at this thing. So maybe that's just the type of kill I like.
yeah, two's good. Let's put it there for now. We can see how it feels.
Okay. All right, next up we have Debbie from part 4.
Yeah,
What a
once again, part
weird
four,
death this was.
played by Brooke
What the heck
Thies.
was this?
Now, we learn about two things when it comes to Debbie in part 4. We learn that she loves to exercise, lifting weights especially, and she hates bugs. So what do we get? We find out that she's asleep while she's lifting weights, or maybe she was just lifting weights in the dream. And Freddy decides to spot her. He grabs the weight after, of course, he pushes it down, breaking her arms
Oh,
at the elbows, and they flop out. And
that
next
was
thing you know,
horrible. That
yeah,
was
I couldn't
horrible to
believe that.
watch.
I really couldn't believe it. I saw that and I was like, oh, geez. Oh, he tosses those weights. And her arms turn into bug arms. And she just runs away from Freddy, which understandable. She runs down a corridor and she doesn't realize that she has run into well, she doesn't realize where she is, but she falls down face first into a pile of what we can only assume is just goo, and it rips her face clean off because
Ugh.
she's turning into a cockroach, and she happens to have been now stuck in a roach motel. And we see Freddy's eye, and he lifts it up and he says, you can check in but you can't check out. Crunch. Goo splats out and she is dead, encapsulating the only two things of character development that we got from him.
They give you exactly what you need to know about him.
This is a top 5 one right here. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, if this is better or maybe we put it at top 4 or 3 or 4. This was a good death. That crunch with the weights. Oh
Oh, the arm thing.
yeah,
Ugh.
flipped forward. I was like, oh no.
Horrible. Horrible. And then, I mean, the bug thing was weird. I'm watching it and I'm like, what earth going on here?
Yes, we get to see she's eating a sandwich or something, and there is a bug on it, and she freaks out and hates bugs. And so we realize that's going to have something to do with this, obviously. And it is. That's what we get. We get we get exactly what we paid for with Debbie. We get the weights, we get the bugs. The only thing worse is if she would have been eaten alive by bugs.
So I have two that I know that I like more than this left, and maybe maybe you guys will disagree, but maybe put this one at 5 and bump down Greta.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I agree. I think that Debbie is a top 5.
Yeah.
And we can maybe negotiate her higher too, just depending how you guys feel about
Yeah. We'll
the rest of these.
All right. Next up, we have Tina.
From A Nightmare on Elm Street. The first movie, the first kill. Tina, played by Amanda Weiss. You'll also remember her from, well, we're not going to get into that. Either way, the point is,
from other movies she was in.
But this was one of the scariest deaths for me because we see her have a nightmare in the very beginning. We don't know what's happening. This is the introduction of all of these and Freddy Krueger. We see that she's scared and she has her friends over and her boyfriend and her, have their relations, and they fall asleep and they're not going to fight anymore. And she gets tempted outside. She knows she has nightmares and she just goes outside like a nightmare. And there's Freddy, elongated arms, walking down the alley. And he chases her. He cuts his fingers off. He calls out her name and she actually politely turns and looks. He cuts off his fingers. He cuts his chest. And he does all sorts of things. And she runs and he catches her on the porch.
Just toys with her.
He toys with her completely.
Super unsettling.
It's really unsettling. The first Nightmare on Elm Street, by far, for me, the scariest, even though part 3 is easily the coolest. And he even rips her face off and laughs at her and lifts her into the air. And finally, when she's in the air, he cuts her right down the middle. And it is gory and it is scary, creepy, all of the above. This was the nightmare to start off with when it comes to this, and that's one of the things that made it fantastic as an introduction to the character, to the series. All around excellent.
Well, and I think that the thing with this one, that the dream portion, I remember when I first watched it, I thought it was kind of silly looking. I thought the elongated arms were kind of silly.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was really silly.
But it's when you get over into the real world and she's getting dragged up the wall and up onto the ceiling and cut and just bleeding, like, that is terrifying.
Yeah,
That is
really
very scary.
terrifying.
And her boyfriend is just pointing and
Like,
screaming her name as she's
yeah.
being dragged up the wall. I mean,
And this is, by the way, the first death. This is the one they used the same one in the death with Glenn because it like turned around and her boyfriend couldn't do anything but hold his arm out because technically he was like on. I can't remember if he was like he was like strapped in and like she was on the floor and he was on something like that. But I mean, it was a really technically interesting kill
Yeah.
all around.
Yeah, this is my number one for sure. I think it has
Yes.
to be. It's
Yeah.
is it one of the? I think one of the
Easily.
most, if not the most iconic kill, and it's the
Hmm.
first. So
Yeah. They
yeah,
started off
I
strong.
could do it.
And
I agree with that. Yeah, real life, like I said, the dream portion, little cheesy. That in real world stuff. Yeah, he's just like, ah!
he cuts open his chest. I was like, oh. And when he catches her on the porch, I don't know why that image was terrifying to me of him actually catching her on the porch as she's rushing for that door for safety. Not that it would have done her any good, but for some reason that image is just like,
yeah.
All
okay,
right.
so
Next up, we
now
have
we left
Mark from Freddy
the
versus
new,
Jason.
from 2003. This was now this was one of the only kills that Freddy got himself in Freddy versus Jason. Mark, played by Brendan Fletcher. Yeah, he was he escaped a mental asylum with John Ritter's son, Jason Ritter, and he inadvertently tells everybody about Freddy at the high school, and he goes home and he I don't know, he's waiting for his friends and he realizes he's falling asleep, as for some reason they do. You think they really have enough adrenaline to stay awake just by being scared, but they're not. And he goes to take his stay awake pill and he drops it down the drain and he sees his brother who committed suicide, played by the guy, the bully from a Christmas Story. And it's Freddy and he's in the bathtub and he's bloody and he's telling Mark that he's got to tell him, make everybody scared of him and all that kind of stuff. And Mark refuses. So he throws him around the room and sets him on fire, slashes his face, and burns his name into his back. Ooh. And the acting in this is, yeah, I mean, he really sold the terrifying part, I gotta say.
And while
Mark
his
did.
friends just watch all this happen through the window.
Yeah, we revisited this.
with
And
this glass, bro. What are you gonna do? You're trapped out there.
yeah, well, they were like politely knocking. They were like, "Hey,
Hey,
I
you're
don't
on
know what to
fire,
do."
buddy. You're on fire. We're
Hello.
knocking at your
No.
window here.
Like,
We've done
"Wait,
everything
stay
we
away."
could. We've exhausted all resources.
But we're not judging it on his friends and their thought process or ingenuity. We're judging it on the
That's fair.
brutality of the kill.
The sudden cut on the face was
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best best part.
that
or
was
worst part,
really
depending how you
cool.
look at it.
What
I
do you
think
guys
this is
think?
I think this is still bottom 5 for me. But
Do you think
open
it
to
better or
open to-
worse than Greta? Are we moving Greta again, or do you think 7? Because this is better than Carrie.
Better than Carrie. No, I like it better. I think for me, this fits really nicely there. Having right in between.
That makes sense. That makes
Good with
sense,
that.
Charlie. All
Good with that.
right.
That.
And last, certainly not least.
Definitely not least.
Definitely
Aaron.
not.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Played by Jennifer Rubin. This was from 1987. I've got to say, it is really. She had said that all the guys had a crush on Patricia Arquette, and she's like, nobody had a crush on me. And I was like, oh yeah, no. When I first saw this, I saw 2, and I saw 1, and then I saw 3, and oh, it probably was the mohawk that did it. Anyways, she decides her dream power, because they're dream warriors, is that she is beautiful with the mohawk, oddly. She had really nice hair before, and bad with a couple of switchblades. Not machetes, not swords, not guns, but switchblades. So, okay, when they all go into the dream world, they get separated. She finds herself in an alley. Her background is in she was in the basically asylum, mental asylum, because she had like a drug problem and she had committed crimes, so she didn't want to go to jail, so she went into the asylum or therapy. She took some sort of a plea deal. I don't know what happened, but and so Freddy decided to bring her back to where she kind of came from in an alleyway to score drugs, and she's looking for him. She takes her blades out and she's walking in, and it is really cool. And Freddy appears right behind her, of course, and they have a blade fight, and she gets him, and unfortunately he realizes that he's outmatched, so he takes his fingers and they all turn into syringes full of drugs, we can assume, and all of the track marks on her arms start because they want it.
So gross.
It
So
really is, and she
gross.
can't do
Oh.
anything about it, and he just comes right in, right into those, and drains all the drugs into her, effectively killing her. They were going to do, it's rather, I mean, I will admit this, she just kind of screams no, and then like that, you don't really see her die, because they were going to do a head exploding bit, and the effect never worked. It just did not explode, and they're like, all right, we can't do it. So the all of it is excellent until the absolute actual death. They kind of cut away rather quickly. You don't really see the aftermath or anything. But I've got to say, so cool, that lead up and the actual death when he jams right in there. It is so cool. What do you guys think?
She actually like fought Freddy, and like
Yeah,
they fought, and she like stabbed him like right in the side. It was
she was like, "Let's go."
she was ready to take him out.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
the track mark thing was really gross. Yeah, it looks just like Charlie's lip.
Thanks.
For me, this would be my number 2 or 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I love this death. This is an excellent one. If you guys made an argument that it's number 1, I might just go along with it. But if without any argument from you guys, for me, it would have been my number 2 or 3, because really cool. And I love the fact that she didn't scream like out of fear and like or jump. She like he showed up and she was right there, like, yeah. And she even said, "Let's go." I love it. She wants to fight, and she fights him.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely top 5 for me, and I really top 4. With I'm good with any of those spots. If we wanted to switch 3 and 4, if we wanted to do some other shenanigans up there, I'm good with it.
I mean, we could drop Philip to 4, but Aaron at 3. Or do you guys want to make a case for Taryn to be even higher than 3?
Well, I can make Dylan's case. Dylan's case is too much blood.
Well, that's a good point. That would be my case. If you don't have an argument better than that,
it's a fair argument. It was a lot of blood.
So what do you think? Should it? It doesn't seem like you have any other argument. Then maybe we just leave it at 3.
For me, I like having Tina, Glenn, Taryn. I really like Glenn.
They're good.
I think that the deaths are cooler than Taryn's. I think Taryn has great lead up to her death.
Yeah.
And the idea of Freddy like injecting her with so much eyes.
Yeah.
But I think I still like
it. Okay,
for me, Taryn would fall at number 3.
All right,
what do you guys think?
I was happy with either 2 or 3. Like either one of those would have made me happy.
Yeah, 3's good. I like it.
Okay.
I like
happy with everything else.
I love that the first 4 are the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and then a Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I love that.
Part 3.
Yeah, like 1 and then 3.
Should we switch Kincaid and Carrie?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
so.
Should. The lead up, because it's creepy. Remember, bro? There's really nothing with the with Carrie's, or you had said.
It's true. It gets more of the shock jump scare factor.
But Kincaid's is creepier.
Kincaid's is creepy. All those cars, his like body like
Yeah, yeah.
Stupid.
All right, I like this list. This is
Good.
good. This looks good.
All right. So we have at number 10, Carlos from Freddy's Dead. Number 9, Carrie from part 2. Number 8, we have Kincaid from part 4. 7, Mark from Freddy vs. Jason. Number 6, we have Greta. 5. Number 5, we have Debbie from part 4. 4, we have Philip from part 3. Number 3, we have Taryn from part 3. Number 2, we have Glenn from part 1. At number 1, we have Tina.
First is a classic.
Oh, well, that was
Well
fun.
read.
Dylan, thanks for putting all this stuff together. This was a
Yeah, definitely. Lots of
all right. You guys have anything else to add to this?
I will say that if you have not had a chance to watch our building a horror movie, Dylan builds himself a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. I know that we were just talking about this before we went on to record, but I believe there's Elijah Wood and some other people are pitching new ideas for the Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe a reboot or a reimagining. And hey, our very own Tudong Seal came up with, I think, a very great plan. Check it out.
Thank
Links
you.
below.
Yeah, that'll be that. Well, no, not below. I'll put the link, Charlie, right above your head. Charlie,
Links above my head.
put up your left hand. Point up. Left hand up. There you go. Right there. Right there. Look. Oh, there it is. There it is.
There it is.
All right.
I will say, thank you for thank you for joining us. Testing. We will see you next time. Let us know your favorite deaths from the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and let us know which one your favorite in the franchise are. So you kind of heard us talk about some of our favorites. Give us an order, and let us know which ones you thought were the worst, because those are fun to talk about too.
Yeah,
That's
By the
true.
way, we'll see you in your dreams tonight. But we won't. But we'll be kind. We'll be nice.
Very
We'll just be
nice.
smiling, talking about Star Wars. So we'll see you there.
All right.
Like and subscribe.